Never mind. You guys ever go to the stud? You go to the stud? Sorry. I'd love to brainwash you today. I'd love to brainwash you. I would brainwash you today, or I would brainwash you tomorrow. It's not on your terms to decide the brainwashing. I brainwash on my terms. As long as you're going to take part in this agreement, it's going to be on my brainwash. It's not going to be on yours. It's going to be on my brainwash. It's my brainwash. You get washed. I brainwash. As dirty or as derogatory as you want to make it. I brainwash. Sorry. You get brainwashed. I brainwash. Sorry about that. I do. I brainwash. You don't brainwash. I do. You're going to get washed. You're getting washed and you're going to get brainwashed, and it's on you for allowing that to happen. Don't get washed. Oh, washed. I'm going to brainwash you. I'm going to brainwash you in this tidal wave of brainwash. This brainwash is thick. This brainwash doesn't relent. This brainwash is disgusting. It's vulgar. It goes and says too many things. It's disgusting. It's brainwash. I'm not a good person. I'm not a good person. Who said I'm a good person? You can call me nice. Go ahead. You can say it. What's it fucking matter? I'm a nice person? Go ahead. Yeah. Yeah, I'm a nice person. Is that easier for you? If I'm just a nice person? I'm a nice person? What if I'm a mean person? What if you just don't? What if I don't care about what other people like? I do things and don't care about the consequences. I'm not considerate. I do things and don't care about the consequences, not considerate. I don't have the time to think about who it's affecting, the things that I do. Who said I'm only good? Who said I'm only nice? Who said that? Who said that's the only thing that you can be? Who said that being mean isn't helpful too? Who said that being mean, quote unquote, isn't helpful? Doesn't make the world spin? Who said that I don't exist? Who said that somebody like this can't exist? Who said that this can't be a person? Who said that that can't be a person? How am I not within the capacity of a person if I'm a mean person? If I'm entirely mean? You think that can't be a person? What do you think about humanity? What is your dream? What does your silly imagination tell you about reality? What is your dream? If you don't think I can be a bad person. Because your reality doesn't eclipse the reality of all of humanity. Humanity can produce all kinds of people, and especially mean ones. It can definitely produce a mean person. You know how many good people it produces? Lots of people, apparently. Everybody's good. Nobody identifies himself as mean. That's not acceptable. No, I'm mean. You think that's going to get you anywhere? I'm a mean person. I'm a mean person. I don't care about what it means for me to be somewhere or say something, or I'm a mean person. I don't care. I don't care about other people's realities and other people's visions. I'm mean. It doesn't even matter if I have to live in total isolation. That doesn't even matter. If I have to live in isolation for the things I say, I'm willing to take responsibility for the things I say. I don't even care. I'm willing to take responsibility for the things I say. I'm willing to be alone because I can be alone. I can be alone. You can't say truthful things. Well, that's on you. More power to me. You can't live like this. You can't possibly end up alone. Oh well, I guess I can. If you don't think. Because I would take responsibility for the things I did. I'm okay with being alone. I'll say whatever. Do you even know what it means to be a mean person? Or is it just so far away? Because you like distance yourself from mean people so much by just calling everybody nice. Is everybody nice? What is mean? Why don't you accept that mean exists? Mean does exist. There is mean, there is unpleasant, there is unhappiness. People are unhappy. How would the world get by if everybody was happy? People are grumpy. People are unhappy. People are mean. People are mean. People are willing to live alone and be annoyed by everybody else. People are mean. Of course they are. People condescend. People don't care. People want. People condescend. People don't care about hurting you. Some people don't care about hurting you. They just say things. They just say things that are true. If they think it's true, you don't have to believe it. You don't have to believe mean people. But if people say things that are mean, then they're saying things that are more meaningful. They're saying things that are more meaningful. If it's MEAN, mean, then it's the average. It's mean. Yeah, what does that word fucking mean? Mean. MEAN? Mean. MEAN. Mean being the average, but it's like an average, like it's something that can be seen in everybody. Like it's mean. Mean. Mean, it's an average of all of them. It's a mean. Not that the words have to be linked, but mean that you say things that are more meaningful though if you're mean. Like it's more meaningful, but it would have to be more meaningful in a representational sense in order to be linked to the other mean. Mean. I don't care about being alone so much. I don't care about what I say. I know that as long as I say it, that it will be said. But if I don't say it at all, that it won't be said. So the best that I can do is say it. I know that. I know that it doesn't matter what I say and that what I say is gone. The best I can do is say it. That's the biggest impact you want to make. That's a lasting impact you want to make. Don't you want to say it? Like that's a lasting impact that you can make. That's an influence that you can have. If you just allow yourself to not store things up, like having money is like that you want to have money and possessions is the beginning of the storing process. Like people who don't strive after having money or don't care about having money, they spend it right away. People that like having money save it. People that like having money save money. People that like having money, they save money. People that don't care about money or have a fear of money or think that money is terrible just tend to spend their money right away on things. The people that don't care as much about money, they don't value money, so they just get rid of it. But people who value money keep it around and they save it. You can be more influential as a human the more that you don't save your personality, the more that you don't save up stuff, the more that you don't save up money, you don't save up possessions, you don't save up words or things to say, you don't think about something you say. The more that you don't think about something you say and then save it for later, or like, oh, that would be great to say, I got to keep that one around, or like, that's a funny thought. You don't hold your thoughts captive. You don't keep your thoughts around. You don't hold your thoughts captive. You just got to let them go. You have to let them go if you want to be the most influential. Then you don't save. Then you use your influence the most. But there's a risk in doing that because you don't know where your money is going to come from next. If you spend up all your money, if you use up, like if I make a podcast and I save some of the episodes on my computer, sometimes rather than sending them out exactly when I record them, and then because of that they're later, like they come out later than when I recorded them. But if I'm wanting to not Like if I really want to say a lot of things, you have to just let go of the thoughts that you have and the ideas you have rather than keep them around, because as long as you keep them around, you still have to focus on them, and it's easier if you just get rid of them. But you have to trust that you have more things to say too. You have to trust that the money would still be coming in order to spend it right away, because then you're out of money or influence. Because then you're out of money, and then you are out. Like I would be out of ideas if I just got rid of, like, I wouldn't have anything. I would have to make up something new on the spot that I had, and I don't have anything uploaded saved before I upload it. I don't have anything saved before I upload it to the website. Like then I have to make up something on the spot, or like you're just trusting that money is going to come in the present rather than save it. Like be afraid about the future. It is like fearing the future. You fear the future the more that you save money. You fear the future the more that you save your ideas and save the things that you're going to say for a later occasion, or like that would be funny to say for a later occasion. Like not that you really practically do that and then you're like, okay, I'm going to implant this sentence in this conversation at this party or anything. It's just like you're just like, oh yeah, like it's like if it's an active process for you to keep your thoughts around or something, or keep your personality around so you can so that you can document your personality to other people. But like you do that to some degree no matter what, and it's not a bad thing necessarily. It's just like it's more replicational, because you're not allowing yourself to be free if you are trying to speak only in things that you've previously recorded, things that already happened, things that were relevant to a different era in time, different point in time. Like they're not exactly because they're not your personality in the present. I guess if you want to focus on being the most relatable as possible and being the most known, understood by people, and being accepted, liked, then you being more genuine, then you'd have to be more genuine. But there's nobody who does that perfectly. It's just like people save stuff around, people save money, and it's people who like money save money. I love having money. I save it. I love having money. I've always been saving money because I just love having it around. I love money. I love money, and it's like but it's probably just because it totally prepares you. It prepares you for the future no matter what. Like the more money you have, the more that you don't have to worry. I love not having worry. Like it's fighting off worry rather than you accept worry. You accept more worry into your life if you're somebody who just spends your money right away and assume or believe that your money is going to come in the present. You have to trust yourself more to do that rather than create a world where you don't have to trust yourself. Like rather than create a world where you don't have to worry about anything, like saving money but you don't want to save stuff up, and you don't. Yeah, but like as a mean person, no, as a mean person, you would have to not save stuff up. You have to not worry about it. Well, no, but you would rather than creating a world where you don't have to worry, you can create a world where you don't have to worry, but then that can go away. But that's dependent on things. That's dependent on you selling yourself out in a number of directions. You have to sell yourself out. You have to sell out your identity. You have to sell out your identity in order to make money, in order to have money in place coming into the future for a while. You have to have a career. You have to identify yourself with your career, something that exists external to yourself when you yourself are not your career. You have to sell out, and you have to give a portion of your identity over to your career in order to make money. So you have special interest. You're giving into special interest groups. Like they're going to give you money. How does a special interest group work? They are going to, with a candidate, a special interest group, is that the term that I'm thinking of for with a candidate? The backers, their political backers, the special interest groups, the people that prop up the presidential platform, the people that build the platform for the candidate, and the candidate is just the talker. He's just the figure. He's just the appearance. He's just the definition of it. He's just a definition. He doesn't represent all that's underneath it. He doesn't represent all that went into building his platform, where building his platform was done with money from all these different special interest groups that are acting partially as voices for the candidate that is up there speaking, and then the candidate has to integrate all the special interest groups into a single person, and he is the appearance. He's the appearance of all the special interest groups and all the everything that defines his party platform. The guy that, like Pete Buttigieg, like the guy that's on the platform. And then, so he's just speaking as a figure for all these special interest groups. And I use him as an example because he was in third place before Super Tuesday, before the most important day. I mean, Super Tuesday only comes after there's been four primaries, and he's won one of the states of the primary, and he's in third place. And then he pulled out of Super Tuesday the day before, after having campaigned every day of his life, totally devoted himself to this campaign over the last year of his life. He's in third place, and then he pulls out before Super Tuesday, just because Joe Biden and Team Democrat wanted him to pull out of the race. And he did it immediately because he's only a composite of special interest groups. He's not a person. And there are all these special interest groups, and the special interest group, I'm trying to figure out how they relay money to Pete Buttigieg, and because it's vague to me right now, so that'll be because probably most people understand the general meaning, but right now it's vague to me, so I'm gonna have to work it out. The special interest group gives money. The party platform, Pete Buttigieg, they give him money, right? They give him money to say things. They give him money to sell out his identity towards their special interest group, or whatever just is the one phrase that they need him to say to put into his debates, or whatever, the one phrase that all of their money goes towards, because they are the one part of his platform, the part of his platform, the thing that he's behind, the thing that, like, people pay money for him to be a characteristic in the person Pete Buttigieg. It's all these different fractional amounts of money that are aggregate of a whole that is Pete Buttigieg, and he is constituent of all the characteristics and all the special interest groups. They compose him. He is them. He is those characteristics the same way a person has characteristics, but he just happens to not be a person. He's just this strange robot made from the conjoining of many different greedy corporations. And so he represents a conglomerate of corporations. He is an oligarchy. He is an oligarchy by himself. He's an oligarchy of all these special interest groups. And he's a single instance of an oligarchy, all of them factored into the product that is Pete Buttigieg. He's that guy. And so Pete Buttigieg does his money dance, and for debates and stuff, he goes up and does his money dance on stage, like, ha ha ha, like, this is the kind of money that you can have in your face if I'm president. This is the kind of money that you can have these special interest groups money in your face, and this is what I'm composite of all of these things. Do you like that? Did you like that I spoke about it? He does his little dance. He does his little spiel. Okay, that's a nice spiel. Thanks. I don't know if you're going to win this competition. You better be more interesting. Your special interest groups better come up with things that are more fake, so that we don't see through you, or like things like that. We want to be able to believe in you. And Pete Buttigieg was a great product. He was a terrific product because he included exactly all the right buzzwords. He was the more candidatable Andrew Yang. He was the more candidate Andrew Yang, more actually a political candidate, because he represents so many different groups: military, former military, gay, mayor, small town, Midwest small town, like, he's a great candidate. What a terrific product by the Democratic Party. What an amazing product that Pete Buttigieg turned out to be. And it almost worked. But unfortunately, it was revealed that he was only a product this whole time. Sorry, everybody that came to his rallies thinking that he was going to speak for himself. Sorry for everybody going to his rallies, but he revealed himself to be a robot the day before Super Tuesday. I'm sorry that that's the day. And then that is what was known afterward. And then everybody believed in a world that existed beyond it that included that Pete Buttigieg was actually, instead of what we formerly knew him to be as a regular person, was actually a robot. And so he, as it turned out, he had mechanical parts that he was composed of. He was a robot, unfortunately. And so, so the special interest groups, they give him money. They give him money in order to be, so like he does his money dance on stage. Is that a proper use of the term? Is that a proper adjective? It's a money dance. He shows money. He expresses money. He expresses the special interest groups. He expresses money. No, I mean, they get him to say these things, but he still has to be relatable. He still has to act. So Pete Buttigieg himself has to do a lot of work in order to translate all of this into a relatable person. And what an amazing job he does. What an amazing job he does with that. That's his talent. He's a talent. He's a charismatic speaker. Pete Buttigieg, how do you get to be third place when you're a no-name, when you're younger, and like most of the Democratic Party just apparently likes older people? That's pretty good. It's pretty good, Pete Buttigieg. You spun a terrific tale, and we're all very impressed. I think it would have been a more interesting or noble or dignified tale if you had continued to pretend to not be a robot, but you decided to reveal that you were computerized and anti-specific, and you were and so what we have, and so the money goes into the special interest groups, and so the money goes into the special interest groups, and so the money goes into the special interest groups. Okay, so the special interest groups have money. Now I have to try to remember I need to remember what this is linked back to before I can continue. The special interest groups, because I'm trying to figure out how special interest groups work because of identity, probably just because of selling yourself out to your identity, because I have to sell myself out to, you have to sell yourself out to an identity in order to get money. So the special interest groups have to sell themselves out in order to make a return, in the future. In order to make a return on investment in the future, you have to do that. And so I have to sell myself. I have to sell myself out. I have to sell myself in order to have a return on investment in the future. I have to work. I have to sacrifice. I have to be undignified. I have to work, and so the special interest groups have to be undignified in the sense that they're just going to pay money in order to be heard, but act like they're a person, and pay money in order to act like they're a person, but in a deceitful way where they are acting like a person when they're actually just a corporation looking for a return on investment. And so the special interest groups are just looking for a return on investment because they don't want to live in a world that is irrelevant towards them, that they are not relevant in. They don't want to live in a world that develops to make them not relevant anymore. That just shows some amount of laziness or lack of trust in yourself to say that you'll be able to adapt. Like, some people just aren't willing to. That's like you. If you have enough money, then you don't have to adapt. You can just create a world. You can just create a world where you don't have to worry. And so they want to create a world. These special interest groups, really large corporations, food, agriculture, like whatever they are. Agriculture is the only one I know, apparently. What else? Shopping? No, that's not one. Agriculture, like special interest groups. Who knows? They're special interest groups and they're dirty money, but they're dirty money because they want to pretend to be a person. They want to be represented in the figure that is the president in order to rule over the people, but make it so that the country is developing in a direction that continues to make them relevant rather than that challenges them to change and adapt with the world. So it's like they kind of want a world to stay the same, but they want to create a world where they don't have to worry about anything. So they're going to pay the leader, the person that is going to navigate the country, They pay the person who's going to navigate the country to control it in a direction that is beneficial to them. So they're paying a lot of money to be represented in these candidates, to be one of the characteristics in one of the candidates. And so the money is dirty. The money is dirty. The money is dirty from a special interest group. But so how do they make money? How do they make money? They make money by because the world will not challenge them. I mean, they're already making money. They already have enough money to be a special interest group, whatever it is the organization is. But they're also making the president be the president. Like, they're saying, since he's part of the platform, if he wins, they do actually get the, like, if he wins, and he's saying, but he's probably just kind of more, because he's not going to be representing the corporations or the special interest groups when he talks. He's not actually going to be representing them. He has to convert what they say into something relatable and something human, something that is more human rather than just driven only by money. And something that's driven only by money is less human because those are from people who want to save money rather than get rid of it right away because they don't trust in themselves. Because it's less human, because you have to trust in yourself to be relatable. You have to trust in yourself to see things from somebody else's point of view. You have to trust yourself if your focus is on somebody else in a conversation, you have to trust yourself, because if your focus is truly on somebody else in a conversation, you're allowing yourself to say whatever comes to mind. You're allowing, if you're really interested in them, you're just going to say whatever. You have to trust yourself in order to do that. You have to trust yourself in order to fully relate to somebody else. And so you don't trust yourself as much if you are trying to control and manipulate people around you to create a world where you don't have to worry, rather than trusting in yourself, trusting that the present will happen and that money will come in, that you'll be okay into the present, because it's not about trying to create a world where you have money. It's not about trying to create a world where you have money. And so it's not about you having money. Like, your world and your reality isn't about having money. It's just about, when your world isn't about trying to protect for the future, when your world doesn't involve trying to protect against worrying for the future, and you allow yourself to worry about the future and allow worry to be there and allow fear to exist alongside yourself, then you get to face the future head on as it comes to you, rather than hide away as it is, understanding that it doesn't affect you. Like, you can make it so that the future doesn't affect you, and that you don't have to think about the future, what's going to come next. You don't even have to pay attention to it. If you have lots of money, you don't have to pay attention to it. But you can have money, obviously. You can have plenty of money and still be able to pay attention to the future. There's all kinds of different people. You can have money and be able to pay attention to the future. It's just that if you like to have money, though, it's kind of more that. If you like saving money, if you're the kind of person that hoards money because you like it, you like having it, you want to have it, you just want to protect, then you are just, you're protecting against, you're protecting rather than facing it. You are mitigating fear, but it's okay to mitigate fear. That's fine. It's okay to mitigate fear. It's okay to mitigate fear. You aren't not genuine. Like, you can be genuine while being a fear mitigator. You can be genuine while doing that, while saving money. You can be genuine over lots of things. It's just that, so if that's true, then there's, I don't know, my analogy is like, it's just that if you're somebody who spends all your money, you don't care about what it influences. You don't care about what it influences. You don't care. It's just gone. You just get rid of what you have. You don't care about what you have. You get rid of what you have, so you allow yourself to change. You get rid of what you have, so you have yourself to change, rather than that you hold on to things. Rather than that you hold on to things. Rather than that you hold on to things, hold on to things that you said that you can use for later, or conversations that positively happened in the past that you can use again, that you can, like products that you got a good return on investment for, that you get to use again. Like, you don't, the more that you The more that you get rid of stuff, the more, if you just get rid of stuff, if you allow yourself to change, then then you do trust yourself. You trust yourself to know that you don't have to stick with what's familiar to you. You don't have to continue to live in the same situation, because you know that it's fine to change or have a different situation, because you know that you'll succeed in a different situation. So you allow yourself to have different situations. You get rid of what you used to have. If you change, if you're the kind of person that changes rather than that you hoard things, rather than that you hoard that you hoard influence, rather than that you hoard influence, then just send your influence. If you just send your influence, you don't care about how you affect people. You don't care about the consequences. You just because it needs to be said, because it's just something that has to be said, and it doesn't matter what it influences. It doesn't matter what you say, and that it's just gone, and that the present is gone. It just allows you to accept time and the movement of time, and it allows you to accept the future more. It allows you to accept the future. It does. It allows you to accept the future. And so it does for that. It's future does future. It does future does. It allows you to just allow the future to happen to you. Yeah, it does for that. Sing merrily. But so if you're a mean person, to be a mean person, you can't be like a money hoarder, because you're not a protector. You're like, oh, it doesn't matter if I end up alone. It doesn't matter. You have to spend all your money in order to be a mean person. You have to spend all your money in order to be mean, in order to be successfully mean. Because if you are hoarding and saving a bunch of money, then your strength is in your money pile. You're like, well, that's what I go back to. But that's what everybody's strength is in. Everybody's strength is in their money pile. My strength is in my money pile. But if you're somebody who likes money, if you're somebody who likes to have money, if it's about accumulating the money, but I don't care about accumulating the money. I just want power. I'm a mean person though. But I'm not a mean. I'm saying that a mean person, the way that you're talking about it, or at least this instance of mean person that is truthful or doesn't care about what he or she has, the person that gets rid of what they have, immediately, or spends money, doesn't care about what it influences, doesn't care what they say. The person who doesn't care what they say, that's the kind of mean person that I'm ultimately talking about. But you're not mean if you have money. But you're not mean for having money. You're not mean for having money, for wanting money. Because that's not the same thing. That's not mean to want money. It's not mean to want money. To have a power thing. It's not mean. It's only mean to... It's mean to be like binary. It's mean to be binary rather than level yourself out. It's mean to say things that are absolutes and apply to everybody, because if you say things that are absolutes, then they have consequences for everybody, and you know that they're absolutes. If you say that you're somebody who has the authority to speak in absolute truths, meaning things that are like absolute truths or falsenesses, or like say lies that are absolutely false, like even that, sarcastically lie to the point that it's so totally false, like to be more absolute in the way that you speak and the way that you conduct yourself, to say things that are more high risk, that are high or really low, not say things that everybody that's common, just say things that are risky, to say things that are absolute, like too far true or too far false for people to even take in. You say things that are absolute, stuff like that, stuff that you're like, oh, I have the authority to say this because it's absolute, and I see myself as an absolute person, so I talk that way, and I'm the kind of person who takes the most responsibility. I'm more polarized, I'm more binary, that kind of person. Somebody who lives in absolutes. I forget the point that I was making. If you are more polarized and binary and you speak in absolutes, then that is what makes you mean. That is what makes you mean. Because rather than relativity, rather than the relativity between binary points, because a point is a whole and is an indivisible instance. It's an indivisibility. It's a whole. It's like, and it marks numbers on a number line, like it marks integers, and an integer is from the Latin or Greek word integer or something, and which means whole. And so the points are wholes. They're particulates, but they're wholes. They're particular particulates. They have a particular name. They're particles as opposed to waves. Particles are wholes, are points. And that those are binary because a point can only be described as a point. And there's no further description as like an indivisibility, even though I just described it further, but I'm just giving different words for the same thing, the same way you would expand on anything. But like a point is binary, as opposed to the space between 2 points is relative. It's relative. It's a relative instance because it's relatable of the 2 points that you've defined. It can only be relatable of the 2 points you've defined if you've only defined 2 points. And if you're just considering the space between the 2 points, because nothing within the space is a point as long as you didn't define it to be a point. But that space is relative. It's consistent of relative instances rather than binary, singular, only there or not there instances. And so if you're somebody who saves money, you conduct yourself relatively. You conduct yourself relative to other people because it's about having the most money. It's about having the greatest level of money so that you can control the reality. You can control the reality the most because you can control the reality the more money you have. And like who has more money basically than the special interest groups, like somebody, the agriculture, whoever owns all the farms, whoever's at the top of who owns all the farms, like that person has such an incredible amount of money, and they're going to be able to influence through their money. They're going to be able to influence the reality of America a lot more than anybody else. And especially if their candidate wins, or if they invest in the most candidates or whatever, depending on how much money they have. So they can invest in a reality that protects them and is helpful to them, and where they don't have to worry about adapting. They can invest in a reality like that because they have money, but that is them trying to have more money than everybody else, and it just becomes a competition. It becomes a competition of realities because the person with the most money gets to define reality from their perspective the most. Like Jeff Bezos gets to say, like, he's the person in the world with the most amount of money, is all that you would need to know about his identity. His identity is the person in the world who has the most money. So he's the person who through influence can just start to influence in wherever, because he has more than everybody else. He is as far as money can go. He is as far as money can go because he has the most money for this particular era. He's the furthest that money can go. He's the most potential influence that he's not using. He's the biggest saver of money. He's the most successful saver of money of all the people that would rather engage in competition and engage relative to each other. He is the winner. He's the one who is the most at saving money. He's the best of those kinds of people. He's the best at saving money of anybody. He wants to have the most money, apparently. I mean, he's able to make his dream a reality the most. He's the most successful at it. And so he is the leader. And so he would be able to protect against what to him is a bad reality more than anybody else. But every single competitor really has their own specific worst case scenario reality, and that they're trying to prevent. If you're somebody who just wants to save money to protect against the future that you're afraid of, because everybody has a specific future that they're afraid of. And so if, like, the more that you influence the world by the more that corporations influence the world by sending money into candidates or platforms or bigger groups that show off their money, or show that make their money go a long way and whatever. I don't remember what I was saying at the beginning of the sentence. I don't remember. what I was saying at the beginning of the sentence. The money, and what am I trying to do? I'm trying to work out that the special interest groups, how they give money to candidates and the return on investment. And what was that for? That was for that people sell out themselves, sell out their identities to things. So the special interest groups, they sell out their identity in order to be identified in something other than themselves, which is Pete Buttigieg. They give themselves over to a different entity that has lots of power, but they do that in order to, because that's the only practical way to go about them being a person in power for them as a group, to do that just based on the structure of government. So corporations and individual people through their careers, and corporations through their existences, and all of them in their attempts to get money, they represent themselves in each other in order to get around the structure of government as it exists. So if you're a corporation, you can't be on top, but you can essentially be on top by representing yourself in people that aren't people, but are conglomerates of corporations that are trying to govern the country by their dictates. And then based on how influential government can be and their ability to implement change is how much that the special interest groups will focus their money on giving it to government, because government is what influences that. But at this point, like that, because all of that is tied in with government, and it has to, all of that, like any agriculture or transportation or homeland security, it's all part of government entirely too. But like special interest groups within those, they give money, and so Pete Buttigieg speaks on their behalf, and pretty much their money allows them to have more money or more hoarding ability, because the idea is that if he was the president, then the world that he would envision would be the most conducive for their survival and most conducive for them to safely amass more money, and as long as they're not losing money. So they're trying to protect, because they're the kind of people that save money. They're the kind of people that have money, so they're trying to protect against. So they're worrying about the future, trying to protect against a future that is bad for them. And so I guess you do that the more that you're the kind of person that saves money, but that doesn't make you a mean person. That makes you a relative person. That makes you a competitor. That makes you masculine. If you are, that makes you, not that it makes you man or woman, masculine. Like it's on that side of things. Masculine is on the side of relativity and competition. Masculine is on the side of relativity and competition, and femininity is on the side of binarity, I guess. It's more all or nothing. No, I don't know. I don't know about that. But masculine has to be on the side of competition. Feminine, maybe feminine. I'm not talking about men or women. I'm talking about masculine and feminine. Any man can be feminine and any woman can be masculine. Any one of them. I don't care which is which. Everybody go out and do it. You just fill the whole spectrum from masculine to feminine with different instances of men and women. I'm saying it's a spectrum. It is a spectrum if you want to consider it that way. And I do, because that's what I do. And so competition, if you're competition or your relative, you're more in the competition rather than that you get to be somebody who speaks in absolutes and is therefore a mean person, because a mean person doesn't care about the relative competition of things. So they might be more concerned in just speaking in an authority, as if they were an authority above what the entire competition is contained within, and a liberal might do that by saying America fucking sucks. America will be, because they're like, oh, America, the whole thing is terrible. Actually, the whole thing is terrible. So the liberals take the authority of being above competition and being above capitalism by saying that, by being absolute, by being mean, by being more binary, because they're more binary. They're just going to say things like that. They're okay with saying things like that. They're okay with having they're like, oh, we do have the authority because we're people who view ourselves to be more absolute. We do have the authority to mince words and use, like, even say the biggest lies. We do have the authority to say the biggest lies that you will have to figure out, like things that are too sarcastic, like, oh, I was just being sarcastic, like they could just make up anything, because as long as they're mean, they're above you in their ability to, like, they're saying things that are above you, and that's what's mean about them. They're saying things that are scary and make you afraid. So they're saying things that are undefinable to you because they're absolute, because they're saying at least things that maybe that you're defining in that moment, but because you haven't lived in a world where people are saying those kinds of things, you're not used to it, so you're the one who gets surprised rather than that you're the surpriser. And wouldn't you much rather have the power that the surpriser does? Wouldn't you rather be the absolute? I mean, the absolute, to speak in absolutes, to say that you have the authority to speak in absolutes is more interesting. It's more interesting, but in order to do that, you have to sacrifice. You have to be willing to say that you aren't, that you're okay with being alone or ending up alone, or okay with it going badly. You're okay with taking responsibility for the things you say. You're not afraid. You're not afraid about the future, because you're okay with whatever the future brings the next day, because you're just going to spend all your money or whatever, because you know that the money is coming in, because you trust yourself. You have to be somebody who trusts themselves. You have to have trust in yourself to say things that are absolute, because everybody has the capacity to say things that are absolute. People can imagine themselves to be that way. People can say things that they feel more strongly about, and they can say them more publicly if they want to. They can be more absolute and forthright with their opinions when people have opinions. Like, everybody is a different person, has things to say. But people can be more absolute, but in order to do that, there's a price. You have to actually be able to trust yourself to say things that are more absolute, or more undefinable to other people, more confusing for them, more things that they would have to figure out. Like, you have to be absolute. In order to do that, you have to trust yourself. So it's harder to be absolute or live at that high of stakes, because it is high stakes. You have to risk to be somebody who speaks more absolutely, rather than just be part of the relativity game, rather than be part of the competition. Because a liberal can be like, well, actually, America is terrible, and then America is what defines the entire competition. It's a definition above the entire competition. So a liberal can be like, oh, that's true. Like, America is totally and then they totally go past the competition, all the competitors, just by saying that the competition is dumb. And so you can say that you have the authority to say that, but you also have to face the consequences of maybe how stupid you sound. You have to face the consequences that, like, well, nobody's going to like that opinion, because we're living in the competition as it stands right now. You can't just be like, well, one day, just like, you can't just be like, well, America's gone. Or America doesn't, it's just America. It's definable as America, so it doesn't matter because America's stupid. Like, liberals think that America is stupid. They think that the whole thing is stupid, and then they blame the whole thing for being stupid, rather than being people that would take part in the competition, because they're mean. Because liberals are mean, because they're absolute, right? Liberals are mean because they're absolute. And conservatives are more masculine. Conservatives are more relative, like liberals progressives. I'm saying that because they're mean. I'm also saying that they're mean. They're mean, but it doesn't mean anything to be a mean person. What if I am mean? What if I am a liberal? Because that would be the lowest thing to me, to be a liberal. No, being a liberal is fine. Being a mean is fine. Being nice is fine. I'm saying that the two things are the same. Being mean and being nice is the same. You're a mean person. We just need to live in a world where mean people are accepted. If you don't, because I mean, to you, and that's my perspective of mean, like, a liberal person is mean, but I'm also saying that it's the exact same thing as a conservative, because a conservative is what? Nice? Like, why would that have value over the negative thing? Like, the negative and the positive are equal. It's fine. Negative. It's fine to be negative. It's fine to be mean. If a liberal is mean to you, and if you're a liberal, then a conservative is mean to you. But I'm explaining my perspective of what makes a liberal mean to us, to a conservative, because, like, to a conservative, they're always just saying, they're always just taking the authority of these words, of, like, giant ideas like America, and just shitting on them. to me as a conservative, like that's the kind of person, like I don't like that usage of the authority. Like that doesn't, you don't, in a lot of cases, like liberals don't have the authority to just say the things that they do, or at least I believe that you should live in a world where things are happening rather than take some sort of easy way out. Like it's faster. It's more of a blunt thing to just say something and then be over everybody more easily. Like some people have to be that. Some people have to blunt you in your attempts in whatever the competition is. Some people have to do that. Like whatever is your attempt at being an individual and individualizing yourself, making it so that you have value and that you have capital and that you're a competitor, because that's more in line with having a personality. You can't have a personality if you're binary entirely. You can't have a personality if you're binary entirely, but the world needs binary people. The world needs absolute people. Like the world needs people that say the absolute thing, even though are willing to pay the consequences for it because they might not have the authority to do it. But it also needs the relativity, because the relativity means that you have a personality, quite frankly. The relativity means that the relativity represents all the different colors that are on the visible spectrum, the within of a spectrum, as opposed to the ends of the spectrum, which are just points of reference, which are just particles. Like all the within of a spectrum, it represents all the relativity or all the nuances or all the flavors or all the colors, all the variations that can be figured out, all the differences, all the identities, all the things you can be, all the possible things you can be. It's just the relative instances rather than something that is absolute. And I'm saying that in reference to I guess I'm saying you're binary. If you're a liberal, then you're binary in that analogy, as opposed to relative is a conservative. And obviously the liberals would be more representational of feminism. But they just say things. They don't care about the authority of things. Feminine. They don't care about the authority of things. They're just gonna, just more absolute. They're more absolute. They're more absolute. They're more absolute. But anyway, so the special interest groups, they give money to Pete Buttigieg, and they get a return on investment, which is that they get to hoard more power and more influence. Like they get to live in a world where it is likely that they will live in a world where they will continue to be on top. And it's not really important how a corporation is an identity or is a certain flavor, because I'm saying that there are relative instances. They exist within relativity in the competition, so they're a different flavor, the same way every single color on the visible spectrum is a color, and everything on the visible spectrum within it is relative. It's all relative rates. Relative frequencies. They're like you have your own identity as a corporation. You have at the end of the day one functional value that is representational of who you are, and you have a name, and you're a company, like the same way that you're a single person. You have a way of identifying yourself as long as you're in the competition, but it's not. But like these people are selling out their identity. They're selling out their identity to things that aren't themselves, to other things. They're distributing themselves to other entities, so that they are represented more and more in other locations and other entities and other people and other groups. The more that they just distribute themselves exactly to other groups that only represent them rather than take them in, rather than that there's a relation, but there is a relationship, rather than that there's that both sides like each other, rather than the special. But they sell out their identity. In the same way that I would sell out my identity by But you sell, like, you buy clothes. You buy clothes that you wear on yourself. That's like you put money into your identity. You sell out. It's not selling out though. It's just, but it is selling out, sort of. It's like selling out for this shirt because you're selling out to one thing. You're selling out to be identified as one thing. You're a sellout rather than allowing yourself to potentially exist as more into the future. You're defining yourself more. You're selling out. You're defining yourself more to one identity, like one. But if you pick the right clothing, then you can exist as an identity while still representing yourself as somebody who doesn't want to be identified. And that's probably what makes you fashionable. You're fashionable if you represent yourself halfway between identifiable and unidentifiable. That's what makes you fashionable. Because you're not attractive if you're not unidentifiable, then there's nothing mysterious about you. You can't be only identifiable because then you're just replicating another genre of clothing or you're just imitating an identity that everybody knows, and you're just a stereotype. You're just a replicational representation of something else that already exists. If you just look exactly like somebody else and you're totally identifiable as opposed to unidentifiable, you have to be relatable, though. You have to be identifiable. You can't be totally unidentifiable because then you're just walking around and nobody knows what you're saying. Nobody knows what you're saying, and you aren't relatable. You don't focus on other people, and it's understood that you're totally scatterbrained, and that's the way that I exist. If you don't focus on other people, you don't focus on the things around you, you don't live in the physical world, you can't live imaginatively entirely. You have to live identifiably to some extent. And like if you have an unidentifiable, if you live entirely identifiably, you're going to wear the blandest clothes. You're going to wear abstract clothes, like boring, confusingly boring, generic, like general tones and colors. If you're entirely boring, if you're entirely imaginative, you don't live in the practical world. You're not going to make any identifiable decisions. You have to make decisions and not make decisions. You have to make decisions and just be what it is. You have to be exactly what you are. You have to represent yourself both finitely and infinitely. You have to represent the infinite undescribable things about yourself, and you have to identify with things that already exist in the world so people can relate to you and understand you. You have to be exactly halfway between those things in order to be fashionable. But you can be more fashionable probably the more that you push the boundary, the more that you just rely on your unimaginativeness, or the more that you just rely on that you're not making decisions about, that you're not like making conscious decisions that you want to look this way or look this way, then you can be more fashionable, right? The more that you just trust, the more that you can. So it's not that. It's not just the bridge between unidentifiable and identifiable. It's more specific, and it's more specifically this. If you can trust your imagination and trust your subconscious way of making decisions, trust yourself to make good fashion decisions and be successful at that. If you're successful at trusting yourself, then you are really fashionable. Like then you are the most fashionable possible person. The most fashionable possible person is somebody who does not identify what they, well, maybe, I don't know. That does not identify what the most unidentifiable person is the most like, but I'm not asking the most identifiable person, the most fashionable person. It's the most, whatever. It doesn't matter. It's somewhere between fashionable, identifying yourself, and being unidentifiable, because you have to still be interesting, because you're not interesting if you're totally identifiable, but you are not relatable. You're just confusing if you're totally unidentifiable. So you're uninteresting versus, well, maybe it's just uninteresting versus interesting, because you are interesting the more undefinable you are. Maybe that's what I'm saying. you're uninteresting if you totally identify yourself to an identity that everybody knows, and everything you say is already definable because you totally identified yourself and replicated something that somebody else did that everybody knows. If you totally identify yourself, if you totally and then you're totally disinteresting. But if you totally unidentify yourself, you don't care about identifying yourself. So you are you're just random things. You say random things and you represent yourself randomly, but it's random to other people, but it ends up being specific to you. It's just that it's specific to you because you're allowing your subconscious to make the decisions and basically not making decisions at all about what you wear if you're totally unidentifiable. So that's what would make you random, because that's the only thing that would make you random is if you totally represented your imagination, because your imagination would be random to people. Your subconscious is what would be truly random to people. Your true subconscious, because that's the only place where you aren't represented already in the world, and everything else, where that's the only place where if that made any sense. It probably didn't make any sense, but that person is interesting. That person is interesting. You don't have to be relatable to be interesting. That person is unique. It's kind of like that person is unique or special because they're not derivative of a pattern. That person is unique. The person who is totally unidentifiable, but the person who is identifiable is ordinary. It's just ordinary to special. So is something that I'm describing, but then where fashion exists in it is somewhere, it's probably like halfway between being ordinary and special about the way that you identify yourself. It's, halfway between being ordinary and special. You have to be halfway between that. And so you sell out to make your identity. You sell out, you spend clothes on your identity, and you spend money on furniture that goes in your house that's part of your identity, where it's kind of like part of your consciousness, really. Your consciousness, that's where your consciousness lives, where you reside, where you live. And what you fill that place with, that place you live, the place that you abide is the money that you translate money into those pieces of furniture, and that's how you represent yourself. That's how you identify yourself. You put money into things. You put money into things, but you can save money, or you can just spend it right away. And if you spend it right away, you don't care about your possessions as much because you're not taking as much time. If you spend money right away, then you're focusing on new things all the time. You're focusing on all the new things you buy all the time, so you don't care about focusing on the things that you put in your house if you don't care about spending money. If you don't care about spending money, if you don't care about focusing on what goes into your house and what's in your room, or that, so what you want to keep for a long time, or what is interesting to you, and you're willing to sort through. You're okay with letting go of things. You're okay with not having traditions. You're okay with not making idols out of your furniture, with not making them be like pieces of worship. You're okay with that if you spend money all the time, because you're living under the understanding that you will continue to have new things. Like if you spend money all the time, but you don't look at your possessions and save them and say how great your possessions are. You don't linger over your possessions. You don't hold them to a certain standard like they're a part of you or something like that. The more that you just spend money all the time, the more that you hold stuff with you, like make them some sort of tradition. Like that's my TV. Like that's my TV. I've had it forever. Like that's my TV. It's so reliable. No. What am I saying? The more that you save a TV, the more you don't care about buying new things, though. But you don't. No, but I'm just talking about somebody who rotates through buying new things versus somebody that saves things. Somebody that saves things probably saves money too. People who save possessions over probably save money rather than that they would spend it right away. Yeah, I mean, people that save possessions save money. So to call somebody cheap is like to say that they have a duct tape TV, or like a table that you're trying to make work long past its lifespan. If you're cheap, you don't want to buy You don't want to buy anything. You don't want to, it doesn't have to be that the rate at which you spend money. You can be cheap and buy lots of cheap things. No, if you're cheap, you save money. Yes. If you're cheap, you save money. Yeah, then you're like a bank. You're concerned with having money. If you're cheap, you don't give it out. You don't give it out a ton. You're more concerned with having money and keeping money if you save your possessions and you're cheap. Yeah. And so so the special interest groups identify themselves. They identify this. So they sell out their identity like I have to sell out my identity in order to make a world that will be safe for me, in order to protect for my future so that I have money and I know that I'll be able to buy food and that kind of thing. Like I save up the ability to do that and protect myself. And but how it relates to my identity, and then I'm a mean person. I'm a mean person if I don't care about money. I'm a mean person. I don't really care about money. It's more that you don't care about money. You don't care about tradition. You don't care about traditions. You don't care about money. You don't care about traditions. You don't care about traditions. You don't care about traditions. You don't care about the competition. A competition is a tradition. If you're absolute, you don't care about the traditions, like keeping something around for a long time because it's not a tradition. It doesn't actually have any intrinsic value. You're just going to say that things don't have value that other people deem to have value. You're not going to care about traditions. You're going to want to wipe traditions away. You're done with traditions if you're absolute. Like you just got to move. You only want what's new, but like something that's new at a higher level. You're a mean person. If you don't care about traditions, you don't care about sentimentality. You don't care about what people are sentimental about. You're like, oh, you don't even take part in sentimentality. You're like, oh, well, what you like is stupid. It's a way of saying that what you like is stupid. It's very condescending. It's condescending to be a liberal. It's mean. It's condescending. Like it's above. It is above. It is above because it's condescending, but those people choose to be above. You have to choose to be above. You have to trust yourself, but in order to be successful at doing it, is how much you actually trust yourself. Like, how successful are you at saying things that don't necessarily exist, like in the practical world? Like you say things that are more absolute, you say things that are more above, you say things that are more condescending, then you're a mean person. I do like money though, but I would be willing to spend money. I don't really care about spending money. I'm more interested in, who cares about spending money now? I feel like I'm less and less a spend money person all the time. I would rather be, because you have to not care about money. You have to not care about money to be above have the authority to be condescending. You have to not care about money. You have to not have your money stored up in some place, have your strength in your money. Then your strength is just in what you're saying. If you don't care about money, you don't care about the consequences. You don't care about the special interest groups. If you're invested in yourself, if you're invested in your identity, if you're invested in the full capacity of your identity, which can only be identified the less that you try to identify yourself as other things, the less that you say that your money is tied up in other things, that your identity is in other things, because you can buy clothes that you wear to shape your identity, but to yourself, you don't have to say that they're shaping your identity. You don't have to say that you're identified in that way. So that's what would make you the most fashionable person, is somebody who is the best at dealing with identity, the person who says, well, only other people identify me, I don't identify myself. And so that's what motivates the fashion decisions you make, because the more that you just say that you define yourself, that other people can define you as much as you want, but that you don't even have the ability to define yourself, and that exists with other people, and that your identity is really up to the control of other people and what other people classify to be your frequencies of action, or the things that you repeat, the things that you convey, and the characteristics that you reflect all the time. That's what people see, and people use those to identify yourself. You don't get to see those actions. You don't get to define frequencies of action in yourself, because you don't see exactly how they happen. You're not observing them. They just come from you. And it's impossible for you to see it as past that it comes from you. Like, you know that it comes from you. You know where it comes from. You understand yourself at a higher level than other people do. And so it would be you, the most fashionable that you could be. Like, because it's important. I'm just saying I'm talking about the idea of fashion. The most fashionable person that you can be is you not making it about, when you like buy clothes for yourself, that you're trying to be a certain identity, because you know that identity only exists outside of yourself, and there's nothing you can do about trying to control or manipulate your identity, because your identity is only your perception by other people. So there's no point in you trying to invest your money in an identity that you think is what other people are going to see, because what other people are going to see is what they see, and they're going to define you based on their classification system. They're going to determine your identity. I don't determine my identity. I don't classify myself that way. So like, if you want to be identifiable, but so you don't sell out when you buy clothes to identify yourself in a certain way. If you're not defining it exactly, if you're not defining what way you look, if you impulsively buy them based on how you feel about them, or you feel about it, rather than that you can define what you're picking out, that's what makes you fashionable. If you feel good about what you're buying and what you're wearing, rather than that you're trying to look like something else, rather than that you're trying to define it, because then you put money, because that's what is better for you, and that's what is more genuine, and that's what's more forthright, and that's what's more in your face about you to other people, just the way that you appear, the way that you make your appearance. If your appearance is understood to be what you feel, then you are communicating honestly. And so if you're communicating honestly what you are, you trust yourself enough to say things to other people, and then possibly represent yourself in a condescending way. If you're going to dress, if you're not going to try to identify yourself, and so the money that you put into it, how do you feel? It doesn't matter, because it's going to be regardless of money. If you're buying things that are what you feel, it's going to be regardless of money if you're just buying how you feel. And so the more genuinely that you can represent yourself is the more that you just buy what you feel you like, rather than be concerned about how much you spend on it, or getting rid of that potential to be something else, that potential to identify yourself in another way. And like, the less that you see it as potential to define yourself, the more that you use it to define yourself. But you do use it to allow yourself to be defined. Just that how you invest money, and how money is your identity, because the money that there's so much that you could say about it. There's so much to say, because it's such a confusing thing, how the money is your identity. But it's a true thing, how the money is your identity, how you monetize, but it's not but if you don't care about money, somehow you can be truthfully what you are, rather than be concerned with how other people identify you, because I'm taking the stance that identity exists external to you. That is where identity exists. But if you try to identify yourself by the way you dress, rather than saying the way I dress is just how I feel, if you try to identify yourself about how you dress, then you are you are already defining yourself. Like you're already saying that you're this definition if it's an obvious way to dress or something. Like dressing because it's your appearance. It is important. Why is that? Why is it about dressing? Why is it about your appearance, like the outer layer, like the thing that, because that's where you begin being observed, is the clothing that you're wearing. That's where you begin being observed. You don't begin being observed when you're naked, because that's just how we carry out things. You censor your body. You're censored already, and so this is your body, really. It's your clothing is your body. It's the level of body that we're willing to accept in society, is the amount of clothing that we wear now. So you get to showcase your body. You get to showcase yourself exactly how you want. You get to individualize yourself, and like if you dress exactly how you feel, then you're just like representing yourself exactly like it does. It's almost like you're naked. If you dress exactly how you feel, then it's like you're naked. The more that you're willing to be naked and vulnerable around other people is the more absolute you're going to be. That's the price you have to pay. The more that you trust yourself, because you can trust yourself entirely and make terrible fashion decisions. You could look terrible when you're naked. But you could also just know if you dress exactly how you feel, then then there's value in that. If you end up dressing exactly how you feel, then you're accessing the capital that differentiates you from every other player in the competition. If you access your true value, and you dress exactly how you feel, then your true value will shine through, and you as an individual are able to be influential in the world if you do that successfully. But if you're trying to dress how you feel, but then it ends up being about other people's identity, then sometimes it can look really bad if you're making terrible decisions. If you're like, oh yeah, this is definitely true to wear. Like this is like, I'm the authority. This is something new. If you're wearing something that people don't normally see and it's still looks shitty, then you are good at making absolutely false decisions. Then you try to take the authority to know what looks good, and you're bad at that. Like you're a liar, and you're not even good at being a liar. You're false. Like if you do that, like, so you have to be able to trust, because that's you taking the risk, but taking the risk in a way that already identifies yourself as something that's identifiable. But maybe something can be unidentifiable in a bad way though, can't it? Like not the way that but yeah, besides that being undefinable is more mean. It's more forthright. It's more you just like it's more aggressive. It's more uncensored. It's more unmitigated. It's just like in your face. Like you're more naked the more that you just trust what you feel to dress, because the more that you trust what you feel to dress, the more that you are going to stand out. You're going to be an individual. And the more you're just dressing the way that you are, the way that you want to represent yourself, the way that your body is. Like the more that you do that, the more that you make absolute decisions, about the more that you're absolute, rather than that you're a competitor, and rather than that you want to. If you're a competitor, you do have to see yourself in other people to understand. You have to understand other people in order to try to be above them. You have to understand other people. So it's okay for you to dress like other people dress. But everybody dresses like other people dress. Everybody does identify themselves somewhat when they dress. It's just that if you want to be fashionable, then you want to move the needle of how people dress in the future, and you want to be above other people. And so just dress how you feel. And so it involves how much you actually trust yourself, because sometimes you can trust yourself, but yourself is leading you in the wrong direction, whatever. And so money identify yourself. I'll have to work that out really some other time. Money identify. But what I'm saying is I'm a mean person. I'm a mean person because I can be a mean person. I'm a mean person, and maybe I don't want to save my money. Maybe I don't want to make it so that I'm more definable, or that I'm attaching myself more to the world that you already know, and attaching myself to what people know. I'm willing to be alone, meaning I'm willing to exist entirely in the unknown. I'm a mean person. I'm not nice if I see myself in you. I try to identify with you. I try to relate to you. I'm not nice if I try to relate to you and and try to replicate what you do and show that I'm represented in you and try to relate to you. I'm not like, because I'm mean, I'm not nice, and I'm not trying to reflect back what you reflect and identify myself the way that you do. If I'm mean, I'm not trying to just be representative of what's already known. If I'm mean, but I don't, and if I'm mean, I'm just going to say exactly what is true to me. I'm more absolute. I don't care about the authority of what you say. I don't care about your authority. The more I'm condescending, the more I take that stance. But if I am condescending, then that's because I earned the right to be condescending, because I trusted myself enough to be condescending. If I'm condescending and I still sound like shit, then you don't have to listen to me. Then I sound like an idiot. I'm still going to take the responsibility for it. If I sound like a total idiot, if I'm entirely right, I take the responsibility for it. I would take the responsibility of looking like an idiot. It's okay to look like an idiot. I don't care about looking like an idiot. I'm okay with being alone. I'm okay with being isolated. I'm mean. I'm okay with saying that I have the authority to be above you. Because if I don't, then I look like an idiot. But if you do think I'm if I get the definition condescending, then I am condescending and you've put me above you. If that's the way that you're defining me, then I earn that right by trusting in myself enough to show myself trustworthy enough to be above you, to say things that are more truthful, than the truth that you understand. If I'm condescending, then I earn that right to be condescending. If you say that I'm condescending, then I truly am condescending, because I'm not condescending if I'm not a threat. If I say things that are false all the time, then I'm not condescending. If I put myself behind myself and I'm still wrong, then I'm not condescending. You have to risk something, and then you have to be successful risking it in order to be condescending, in order to see yourself as more truthful. And some people see themselves as more absolute. Maybe I'm mean. Maybe I see myself as more absolute. Maybe I see myself as more polarized. Maybe I see myself as more 100%, or I want to risk everything on one thing, or I want there to be more risk. Maybe I just want it to be that way. Maybe all or nothing is the only way that I understand things. Maybe the things that I say entirely don't matter. Then the things that I say don't matter. The things that I say don't matter because there's bigger things at stake, because I'm willing to say them, because all that matters is that I said them rather than that I didn't say them, because I am binary, because I just want to say it, because it doesn't matter the consequences. I'm not thinking about the consequences or all the nuances of the consequences that it would have if I say something absolute, or if I say an exact point of reference, or I'm putting myself behind a point of reference or something that is absolute, or something that is there rather than something that is relatively there. I don't care about communicating myself in instances of relativity. I'm mean. I care about being, I just want to say absolute things. I want to say things that have a lot at stake.